Hey guys, I just want to let you know that I'm now a certified spiritual life coach. If you resonate with the topics and lessons that my guests and I discuss on my podcast, and you feel that you could use some empowerment and direction in your journey of becoming who you truly are, consider booking a free discovery call with me on my website at kindlemccullough.com. And now on to the episode. Hey guys, I'm excited today. I have Neidy Lozado back and new guest Jessica Ruby Hernandez. We actually had a panel a couple weeks ago, and with Consciousness Cafe, it was really great. The topic we spoke on was how to help parents and other adult figures with children who have had profound spiritual experiences, and we really enjoyed it. It was really great. And Neidy thought there was more to the discussion that we could add. And so we thought that we would continue that on this podcast today. So thank y'all for joining me.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So yeah, do we want to give a little bit of recap of the panel and what we talked about? Neidy, do you want to start?
Yes, as you said, we were invited to a panel representing our school, ITTC, Elizabeth Savet School. And the topic was nurturing young explorers. And we were talking about, different scenarios that parents or teachers, principals at school or whatnot face when they are working with kids who might be experiencing a spiritual type of awareness or whatnot. And one of the reasons I looked at the possibility of meeting again and having a conversation was that I found that there were so many other things that we wanted to say and that we could have said, and the conversation could have gone for hours. There were many questions that were asked and many questions that I would have loved to hear people asking. And all of a sudden, I found myself connecting with you, Kendall, and say, hey, we need to continue this conversation. So thanks so much for agreeing to having this conversation again.
Yeah, definitely. Jessica, what was your experience of the panel like? What are some important things from the panel that we talked about?
Well, it was actually more than a couple weeks ago, so let me see if I remember everything.
I know, it was a while back.
It was a while back. I am not exactly remembering what we were asked, but I think the gist of it was people who are aware that spiritual experiences happen even in children, and knowing that maybe they themselves were not supported when they had their own spiritual experiences as children, and wanting to create this panel with the ITT coaches, where the ITTC is a coaching training program. That's the school we all graduated from. And there is a specialization on spiritual integration. And so we've trained in that, and they invited us to share how we might be able to help the adults know how to support the children as they're having these new, sometimes odd, sometimes disturbing, sometimes, completely unbelievable in the mundane world, right, experiences, and how we can support them to grow and to embrace this part of themselves rather than shut it down and hide it, as many of us had to do in the past because of no support from adults.
Yeah, that's great. I think we were talking about some elements that are really important to have for the children is curiosity, openness, empathy, and creating a safe place for them to be able to talk about their experiences, to be open to these experiences. Sometimes they fit within our current framework of beliefs, and sometimes they don't. And to be open to that and to have empathy for that, whether it feels like a negative or positive experience, it's very out of the norm. And so that can be destabilizing and be tough. And It can cause
Mm-hmm.
shame and fear in the sense that you don't feel understood, or that other people aren't having these experiences, and so normalizing it and being like, it's okay, it's just something we're going through, and we're here to help and support you. And so
Right. I would add also, as the adults, I know in previous generations, my experience of previous generations is they have tended to think that they know it all, and their view of the world is the final say, and that's not helpful in this situation. That's very invalidating to anybody. So I think that's an important factor. Be willing to be able to admit to yourself and your child, you don't know it all. You don't have it all figured out. You don't have it all explained, because nobody does. And
mm-hmm.
it doesn't make you a better adult if you act like you know it all. And it certainly doesn't help the child.
Yes. Let me add to this the role of culture, depending on where we were born in the world, and what the belief system of our family was. We might experience this reality in a different way. I can tell from the way a parent speaks about their child whether or not they were supported in their own growing and experiencing of spirituality. Sometimes because they need so desperately to support their kids, and sometimes, as you said, because they don't understand what is happening and cannot even get in that space where the child is to be able to have those conversations and understand the kid much better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we have to remember that obviously parents are there to guide, support, and help their kids, but part of helping children grow and their important part of their psychological development is helping them become, independent, and helping them, connect with the truth and their path, and become adults themselves. And so we don't want to parent them in a way that creates this unhealthy dynamic of dependency. And what the parent says is the truth, and you can't question that. And so allowing that space for curiosity and questioning, and what do you believe and what is helpful for you, helps foster a healthy adult.
I think part of that, and Neidy has a great example of this, is making the time and space to listen to your child. So I'd love to hear example of this, because it's beautiful.
That's true. I have many examples as a mom, but I will share one as a grandmother. Last summer, my grandkids came to my house, all three of them. And I was convalescing from a surgery. There was a lot of turmoil around the reasons why they came to my house. They were ages 12, almost 3 and 1 year old. And the almost 3 year old is a beautiful boy. He's such a cool guy. But he was having a hard time, really hard time. And he was screaming day in and day out. So much so, and let me share this, that I am someone who is very quiet. My neighbors see me when I am out. They hear me if I interact with them, or if I'm talking to my dogs. That's the one thing. But I'm a very quiet neighbor. And all of that noise coming out of my house, all of that not being able to walk, the child screaming, the other two kids had so many needs, put me in a position of not being able to listen to the child. I could not understand how to approach him, could not understand how to help him. I knew he needed something, but there was no way I could give it to him. So they were back home. All of them went back home, and he returned a couple of weeks later by himself. And this time around, it was all about him. I tell you, we had so much fun. We were able to communicate. He didn't speak much for whatever reason. He wasn't able to speak and he wasn't able to communicate verbally, but we were able to create this beautiful communication between the two of us that was all about my being present to the child. We went on walks. We played with the dogs. We began doing crawling races throughout the house. Um, he began telling me when he needed to go to the bathroom. We created a song and dance for whenever he went to the bathroom and peed. It was amazing, going through the whole house saying, "You peed, you peed, you peed." And for me, the most important part of all of that was that I had the space to listen to the child, to his soul. Forget about his words. The words were not there, but about his soul. And soul to soul, and having the space that parents really, most of the time, if you're working, if you are raising a few kids, if you are doing 100 things to be able to survive, you don't have the time to hear and listen to the soul. I, in that moment, made it all about him and about listening to what he needed. So by the time he went back home, my heart was healed, because the pain and the really the shame of not having been able to understand my grandson when he needed me the most was weighing in my heart greatly. By the time he went back home, I felt easier with the fact that I had given him what he needed for the time that he was back with me. And he healed my body. Remember that I said that I could not walk, and I could not stand on my own because of some surgeries that I had had. All of that crawling and all of those games on the floor and then having to get up after him healed my heart and my body as well. So there's a lot to be said about connecting with the child one by one, and on the level that they can understand, and on the level of the soul. It's for me, that's the most meaningful experience I have ever had with that child. And I say that I was born to be a grandmother. So you might understand how important it is for me to be able to connect with each and every one of them separately. And in this case, understanding what he needed.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. It makes me wonder, though, you bring up really good points for, it's easier for a grandparent to have time to do this because usually grandparents aren't working. You are, but usually they're not, they're retired, right? So I'm curious, because you are a parent, what are practical ways parents can do this, can make the time and space to really listen to their child?
That's the hardest question, right? Because as I said, usually parents have jobs, they have other responsibilities, and more often than not, other kids. But I think that each and every one of our kids understands, or let me put it this way, has a need of his own. I'm coming back to the love languages, right? My most significant love language is quality time. And understanding that helps me, and I'm going to extrapolate this to answer the question as well. If you know what your love language is, and if you observe your child and you understand what their love language is, it might be easier to get that space with them. In the case of my second grandson, his love language is touch. You touch that child, and he is right there. I have tons of photos of just our hands. And sometimes I know that not everybody believes in the love languages, and that this is not something that is widely known by every single person. But I believe in understanding who we are, what makes us work best, what makes us connect with one another in a way that is more meaningful, and then pay attention to what the kid needs, what he is or she is telling you that they need with the nonverbals. And make a ritual. I am a rituals person and a habits person. So creating a little ritual around bath time where you can have just that moment for with one kid at a time. Maybe finding out what their favorite book is and connecting that with your time with your kid. Maybe is finding someone who might be able to take the other kids out and take each and every one of them on a date once a week, a date. And the date could be just going for a walk with that kid alone. And maybe you don't have anybody to take care of the other kids. So finding out what the kid needs, trying to understand, trying to get to that point where the child connects with you soul to soul, and just giving them what they're asking for: a hug, a kiss, maybe sitting with them in the bathtub. There might be so many other things. I'm just going by the things that I know. And sometimes understanding that you need help from the outside as well. Yeah. I hope I didn't go into way too many
I love that. I love that.
Well, that's great. I think children obviously need to be children, and so parents need to go down to their level and what does a child enjoy? What is their language? What can they understand? How can I talk to them in their language? How can I play with them as a child? And as that is so powerful and important and healing for them, it's the same for us. It's playing with our inner child and reminding ourselves of how amazing children are and the way they see the world and the way they have that curiosity and awe and wonder and play and lightness that we need to remember and use in our lives as well.
Yeah, I think of so many parents being like, oh, I don't have time for this, but it's like the way you're describing it, it's a win-win for everybody, even the parents who don't think they have time. It's definitely valuable for all involved.
More than anything, because success is in the smallest of things. It's as with everything that we do. I don't know how big your goals are, but if you don't break them into teeny tiny steps that you do every day, you're not going to get anywhere. The goal can be there and it will turn into an intention or a dream if you don't take teeny tiny steps every single day to move in the direction of that goal. It is the same with a child. When we are communicating with a child, what is the teeniest, tiniest thing that makes that child happy? As I mentioned a moment ago, celebrating them peeing in the toilet. That was a huge thing. It was huge. Allowing the space, and I remember when they were all at my house, I was so afraid that they were going to get hurt, that the gates that I usually use for the dogs to not allow the dogs to go to certain places were closed all the time, because I needed to have the kids where I could see them. When he was by himself with me, the gates were open because I had all the time in the world to go wherever he needed to go and see what he was exploring, and allowing him, because my eyes were only on him, to open all the doors and do whatever he needed to do to explore the house and everything else. So there is a lot to be said about the flip side of the beautiful imagery, images, let me say it that way, that I am sharing, right? The beauty, the beautiful part, the connection and whatnot. The flip side of that is not being able to understand what the kid needs, because there is no time to pay attention to them. And we're just talking about time. Sometimes there is no interest in understanding what the kids need because of what you said earlier, Ruby. It's something that we think that we know best.
Yeah.
And we have all fallen prey of that, right? Thinking that we know best in many moments of our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Mm.
I just want to say that one thing to think about is childhood is such a important, vulnerable, and powerful time in your life because that's when you're really learning, when things are really getting imprinted on your psyche, and um, so we also think about it as insurance. Like if you raise your child well, if you attend to them and love them well, then that's going to set them up for success for the rest of your life. And it can be tough whenever that doesn't happen for children to really um, get heal of those things and see the world from a different perspective. And um, so so if you attend your child when they're young, then they'll need less attention when they're older from you know
I just keep thinking back to Neidy's story. I said earlier it's a win-win for the adults and the
mhm.
children, but when she wasn't able to attune to the child, they were both suffering. So that it really is like a night and day shift that you can create in your relationship with your child by just pausing, slowing down, being present to them, being curious, um, listening to them. Yeah, so that I think we established that one really well.
Yeah, yeah, good job, check mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do we Nate, where do you want to go from here? I know we want to talk about spiritual experiences as well, and the different scenarios that might happen, whether depending on the age of the child, what type of adult figure they're interacting with, whether it's we've been talking a lot about the parents, but there's also coaches or teachers or principals. um yeah.
I think that's the route that I would like to take. Maybe talk a little bit about some of the questions that were asked. For example, going back to your point, were around what would you tell a teacher who is dealing with a child who's having a spiritual experience? And one of the most important questions that came up for me after our conversation was, what is the experience that the child is having or sharing? What's the age of that child? Is the child being disruptive? Is the child asking, or sharing, I should have said, that they are being told that they have to harm someone? The answers to the questions are going to be very different depending on the age of the child, depending on the circumstances. And this is one of those areas that I would really like to hear your thoughts, both of your thoughts. If we're talking about a young child in kindergarten, maybe 5 years of age, who is having a conversation with their so-called imaginary friend, what would be something that we would do or advise a teacher that to do, or what questions would you like for that teacher to ask the child and the parents?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind to me is, creativity and imagination is so vital and important for kids. And so I think we can, especially in our modern age, get too wrapped up in is something real or is it not? Rather than like, is this beneficial? Is it helpful? And so that's more the question I think is important to see to focus on. And so if the imaginary friend is, or if they say it's real or whatever, like it's important for them. If it's helpful for them, then that's great. And if it's positive experience, then that's great. If it's negative, then that's something to address and figure out how to deal with that. That's what comes to mind for me.
Mm-hmm. I love that distinction, because it's all subjective, right? An adult might be like, "Oh my God, that's weird," and the child is like, "This is the best thing ever," right? So that's a very important distinction. What else would I want to know? Um, I think to your point earlier, Neidy, is finding out, what's this imaginary friend like? Are they nice to you? Are they mean to you? Do they tell you to do mean things to others? Or, how do they interact with you? Do they bother you? Do you enjoy having them around? What's the relationship like? That's what I would want to know. Just to make sure it is something that is beneficial for the child and not not. uh,
So, have you watched that movie, The Sixth Sense?
I thought you were going to say that. Yes.
I really like that movie for many reasons. It's kind of scary in some parts, but one of the most important things about the movie for me was the fact that going back to parents and people around the child, um, the mother of this child loved him and she wanted the best for him. She was trying to be as close to him as she could, but he was so terrified and unable to actually talk about whatever was happening to him that his mom could not get in. There was no way she could have gotten in until he opened up. The scene, I remember the scene in the car towards the end where there was an accident and he finally says, this is what's happening to me. I see dead people. I see grandma, and right now, I have always thought those people who died, those ghosts could have been kinder to the child. Come on. They were very scary,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
You want to communicate with this child and you're terrifying him, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so coming back to what the two of you were talking about, the child who is having a magnificent experience, he's connected with these beings, he is actually, or she, um, really much enjoying that interaction versus the child from the Sixth Sense who is terrified and unable to actually understand what they need, but also understand, understand how to communicate with adults in his life. That for me is a really, really big distinction. And I could not think of a better example of a child being terrified by something like that than that movie.
Mm, mm. I love that. And I want to piggyback on that. Going back to, being subjective, the child could be like, all these cool people visit me. Like they could be thrilled about it, right? All these cool people visit me at night when I'm sleeping or when I'm trying to sleep. And I love it. It's so much fun. Maybe they're an extrovert. They love having lots of friends. But then in their waking life, they're not able to stay awake because they're not sleeping at night, right? That would be an example of the kids having a great time, but the spirits are a bit of a nuisance because they're not letting the child sleep. And so some intervention there of, teaching the child how to tell the spirits, it's time for me to sleep, please leave me alone. And letting them know it's okay, you can set boundaries with the spirit world, I think would be very valuable. And that's why it's good to ask have these conversations and make the connections like, oh, they're not sleeping very well because they're having a party every night with their spirit friends. Like, we need to fix this because they need sleep so they can function in the daytime.
Actually, that's a great point. What would be the boundaries that we would set for kids? And let's talk about different ages. For a child 5 years
Mhm.
of age, how do we talk about boundaries with them when it comes to the spirit world versus a 14, 15-year old?
Yeah, great question. Great question. Do you want me to answer? Do any of y'all
Yes,
want to say
go
something?
Go for
ahead,
it.
both of you. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I would just be riffing off the top of my head here, but just like, we tell 5-year-olds nobody's allowed to touch your body. Um, you know, it's, hey, if any of these spirits are bothering you, if any of these friends are bothering you, or you're really tired and you want to sleep, but they keep waking you up, you have the right to tell them, please go away. I want to sleep right now. And they have to mind you, right? And it's saying what the child needs to hear to be empowered, that this is their boundary to set. They don't have to just accept, what's happening if it's not pleasant for them. And then I don't know, because I'm not a parent, like how maybe the child's like, I don't care, I love being up all night. I don't know, how do you make kids go to bed on time and get enough sleep? Because I'm not a parent. I don't know how you do that. But showing them maybe the consequences. This can be different for different age group of, how, you're really tired and you miss your Saturday morning cartoons because, you stayed up too late with your friends. Maybe if you told them you needed to sleep, you could wake up and see your cartoons, I don't know, showing them the consequences. The 15-year-old, how, you're falling asleep in first period and second period and third period. And it's probably because you're partying too much with the spirit world at night. Maybe you need to set a boundary where you don't do that on a school night. Right. So that's what comes to mind for me. How about y'all?
Yeah, for me, it's just, I think the younger is just telling them about boundaries, and that's a thing, and that's something they can do. They're less likely when you're younger to know that and to utilize that. And yeah, that your safety and your health is important, and to have that healthy relationship with yourself and to stand up for yourself. Older, hopefully they know a little bit better, but yeah, I think making them aware of what are the consequences of what is happening, and doing that in a gentle way, because obviously we know how teens are.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that. I had something. Oh, I lost it. Oh, yeah, just generally, like to your point, the younger children, we have to let them know they can make boundaries. And just like you tell younger children, hey, if any of your human friends, your real life friends, if they want you to do something you don't want to do, you don't have to do it. Tell an adult. Or, if they're being mean to you, you don't have to play with them. Like, you can say those same things to the child about their imaginary friends. It's like, hey, you can still set boundaries.
I would agree with that. As the two of you were talking, I was thinking precisely about that. When we are having conversations with our kids and setting the boundaries and the good habits of the home, we usually tell them that they cannot have their phone past a certain time. They cannot receive phone calls or make phone calls past a certain time. They cannot have people over every single day, and especially past a certain time, because they need to sleep. So setting a clean, clear boundary around those things for the everyday life, but also for the spirit world, should be the same. Having those agreements with the spirit world, that this is the moment where this is the place, this is the threshold, and this is the time where you are not going to be available or allowed, I should have said, into my space. Yes. I'm remembering, and this is from the adult side, right? I'm remembering doing an exercise a while ago, and for spiritual integration, Kendall, and we were doing this long day type of thing. And as part of my experience, someone came to me and was there with me all the time. I could feel him on my right hand side. And I remember that I finished the exercise and I needed to go to the bathroom. And I told the spirit, you cannot come with me. You have to wait for me here. I'm going to the bathroom now. So putting this into words that a kid can actually understand, you say, hey, the same way that your friends are not allowed in your room past a certain time, your spirit friends are not allowed, because you have to rest. But you are the one who needs to tell them, that they need to wait for you outside your door until the morning time. And if these are positive spirits, they will abide by these rules.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm thinking about, the parents having these conversations. I would say there's probably going to be parents out there that don't believe in any of this, don't believe in the spirit world. And even then, it's so valuable to tell your kids this because you're teaching them how to set boundaries. So even if you don't believe they actually have spirit friends, maybe if you believe it's all in their imagination, it's still valuable to teach them how to set boundaries with other beings. So hopefully that is taken in.
Yeah. Well, we all have imaginary friends. Have you ever communicated? Well, we are imaginary friends. We have never met in the body, right? In a way. No, but all joking aside, people have had relationships, pen pal type of relationships with other people in other places forever. In the past, they were actually written notes. Right now, how many people do you have on your LinkedIn account that you don't know? You don't even know if that's a real person or if it's someone posing. Yeah, seriously, if it's someone posing as someone else. And some of us have had those experiences of having conversations with people and then finding out that they were posing as someone else. So it is not different, understanding that we all have some relationships with beings that are not in our environment physically that we cannot see. So we don't have to believe in spirits at all, but energy is a reality. It's physics, right? And the concept of having relationships out there, be that a professional network or be that a pen pal or be that a spirit, is as real as anything else. So we don't have to go into the how do you say that, the very spiritual side of things to be able to understand where we're coming from with this conversation.
I love that. Such a great point. Thank you.
Thanks.
Neidy, what would you say?
I have my moment. Yes. Go ahead. Sorry.
What would you say to parents or children who are having really negative experiences, or spirits might not be so positive,
or don't understand boundaries, right? Are not here to understand boundaries. I'd say that's the time to really dig in and seek help. And I come from working, as you, Ruby, as well. I come from working in the mental health field, although I am not a clinician, but I have been very close to clients for most of the last 20 years. And I have seen a client really having conversations with people who we are not able to see. And the difference between someone sitting down and having a conversation with a positive energy versus the one who is about to destroy the building because they are prompted to do these things. And what I would say is always, 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 always rule out physical ailment, rule out mental health ailments, rule out everything that you can rule out first, so that then you can start looking for the actual root cause of whatever is happening. And ruling out is really going deep. And that's what I mean by that. It's no difference going back to the body. It's not difference when your child tells you that he or she is in pain and they cannot actually point to wherever it is. You know that they're in pain, but you don't know what is causing whatever it is. You take them to the doctor. They run tests. They run every single thing that they need to run to make sure that the child is okay, or at least finding out what is ailing them. It's the same with this, with spirituality and the spirit world when it is interfering with day-to-day reality or activity.
Yeah, that's where us, you know, once you've ruled out physical issues, once you've ruled out mental health issues, bringing in perhaps a spiritual integration coach to help you, help empower you and your child in this new relationship, this new dynamic of their life. That would be an ideal time to hire one of us.
Mm-hmm. And this thought crossed my mind: be aware of people who will want to destroy your child in the process, or whomever it is. Be aware of people who are harming your child because they want to take something out of them by means of pain, causing pain or whatnot. Someone who really wants to help your child will protect them, will never, ever, ever cause pain in the process of reading them of anything. We see so many cases of kids or people being tortured because people thought that they had an evil spirit in them. No.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
So what else? What else do you want to explore, Neidy?
I love it that you made me the moderator of your podcast.
I'm the moderator. And I'm asking you the questions.
Joking aside, all joking aside, the last time we met, I asked him a question and he said, "You cannot ask me, be my coach in my podcast." I was like, "Oh yes, I can. Watch me." All right. So the other thing that it's coming my way, is grounding and empowering. You're spiritually aware child. I'm actually about to post a program about this spiritual parenting, grounding and empowering your spiritually aware child. And I'm curious to hear about how would you ground a child, or actually I'm going to ask a different question. I am curious about your spiritual toolkit, and what would you say, or how would you help a parent put together a spiritual toolkit for the family and the child, him or herself?
I want to ask a clarifying question. When you're saying grounding, you're not talking about punishing a child. You're talking about helping them connect their energy,
Good.
right? A lot of people, a lot of parents are.
No, ground like not grounding, not punishing. No, never punishing. I never thought about that, by the way.
I didn't either. That was great.
Yeah, I will have to rethink the name of my program.
Grounding your kids.
Let's ground your spiritually aware kid.
Punishment module, she promised.
I love this. No, ground as in really ground. I don't have another word.
Like connecting.
You get it.
Energy to the earth, yeah. Centering themselves and connecting their energy to the earth. That type of thing.
Yeah. That type of thing, yeah.
My
oh my God. I love this.
Your answer is Legos?
My answer is Legos, man. That's what I did as a kid. That's what I love to do. Build Legos.
Legos is the answer to everything, by the way.
It really is. It's really great. It's the best. But I mean, all joking aside, play in general is grounding. And another thing that we like to do as kids is go outside. Nature is grounding. We used to like play with Hot Wheels, so it's like what in nature do kids, what do they enjoy? That's grounding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I would piggyback on that. It's getting them in their body. Physical activity is very grounding. And so whatever that is for them. And it's interesting. I dabble a little in astrology, but I notice for people who are very earthy, being, an earth sign, being in the earth is very grounding. For fire signs, being in the water is grounding.
Mm-hmm.
So finding, maybe for a water sign, earth is very grounding. I don't know, but finding it's going to be different for each child. We'll just say, astrology aside, we're all different. So finding what you notice helps them calm and be clear and centered. But I mean, personally, I hope it's true that everybody can ground in nature, because nature is a wonderful tool. And play, like Kendall said. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
play. What else? Spiritual toolkit. I would love for people to teach children how to meditate more than it's already happening. It's already happening, but more, bigger scale, like every child learning, what it means to sit still, quiet your mind, and just focus on your breath, because that's a resourcing skill that they can, that'll only benefit them as they grow up. So any type of resourcing skill that you teach a child is going to help them come back home to themselves.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I would just say creativity, which we already do with kids to some degree, but I think that creativity and spirituality is very closely linked.
Mm-hmm.
And creativity is a way to make sense of, to express it, and again, like you said, come into the body. Whether that could be writing was helpful for me. I used to draw a lot as a kid. Dancing. There's many varied ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm a rituals person. I love ritual and simple rituals. I'm not talking about complicated ones. And I think that the way we wake up in the morning is important. That's a way of starting the day by, as quickly as possible, even when the child is very, very tiny. Letting them understand the importance of getting up and smiling. One of the things that I loved with my oldest grandson is that I made it a point to smile every time he comes into a room. I look at him and I smile, and I adore them. So I adored him. He was my only grandchild for 9 years or so. So I was able to have him with me almost every weekend while he was growing up, and we had so many firsts. So many of his firsts happened with me for whatever reason. And the cool thing was that I would ask his mom. His mom is my daughter-in-law. Is it okay with you that he's having these firsts with me? And she would always say, "Go for it, just go for it." But those little rituals that are all about teaching them that to join the day, or to with a smile, to wake up with a smile, wake up in gratitude, say thank you for this day, teeny tiny couple of words, thank you for this day, I'm here. I love the idea of nature. My grandson that I was talking about at the beginning of the conversation, he loves the dirt. So everything dirt, you give it, oh my God, and he loves water. So he enjoys those moments where he can be playing with dirt, be in water, those things. And then in the evening, the ritual of putting them to bed with a bath and having fun with the bath, not making it so heightened that they cannot go to bed afterwards because they are so pumped, but making sure that they ground themselves in the moment and the transition to go to bed, making sure that the beds are clean. You don't have to be rich or have money or have anything to have a clean bed, and an uncluttered room, as uncluttered as possible. So as the kids start living through those moments daily, waking up with a smile, saying thank you, understanding the importance of the routine of the day, having a routine, having connection with them, having dinner, and making sure that the dinner is something that is sacred for the family, even if it comes from McDonald's. It doesn't matter, but making it so that every time we are with our child, even if it's for a moment, there's some connection there, and some connection to the divine, some connection to gratitude, some connection to energy, understanding that we can have a candle ritual, every night before we go to bed. We welcome sleep by blowing a candle as a family, or turning it off, a battery operated for safety, turning it off. And that's the way that we say good night. Little things like that seem to be so mundane and so silly could become very much the grounding force behind having our kids have a better experience. Be that they are super spiritually aware, or that they are being kids daily.
I love that. And I can see adding on some like spiritual protection or boundary rituals to that, like with the bath, letting them know we're washing off the energies of other people, other beings in this bath, and see yourself, see your whole body and energy field being cleansed, and the bedtime ritual, maybe the candle helps, for protection. You are protected while you sleep. You are, your friends, your imaginary friends, nobody's allowed to bother you while you sleep. Like setting, that can be ritualized, setting those boundaries and doing the cleansing. I love that. I like rituals too.
Yeah, I live for ritual. Little, big and small. Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be big and complicated, as you said.
Yeah, that's great. I think that rituals help,
Beautiful.
create a routine, create stability, which children really need, and set them up for success in the future.
Very true. Very true. And then the other part of that is they grow up to understand their place in the world and their value in the world. I come from a different generation, as I have mentioned before, and a different place in the world and whatnot. And I wouldn't change anything in reality in my life, because everything that I have lived through brought me to this moment, except for one thing. Two, I would say yes more often to my kids. As they were growing up, they should have heard more yeses. That's my thing. And even though I am a hugger, I would have hugged them more, much more. There's not enough hugs in the world. There are not enough hugs in the world. You can be hugged, as long as you say yes and there is an agreement. I believe that in the power of healing touch, and nothing more healing, I believe, than a good hug.
Yes.
I have a running joke with my oldest grandson that when we talk, I say, I miss you. And he says, I miss you more. I love you. I love you. I love you more. And then I say, and he goes immediately and says, no. And the and is that I always say, and the next time I see you, I will hug you for 100 years. Worth. I'm going to hold you and it will feel like 100 years. So every time I say and, he goes, no. But that is our ritual, right? That's our way of communicating. So he expects that when we talk, and I know that I am bound to say those words every single time.
I love that.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I have another question. How would you empower not only the kids but the parents as well in this process of really becoming? And let's talk about the parents first. Being spiritual parents. How would you empower a parent?
How would we empower a parent to be a spiritual parent, or to
Well,
when we
we are spiritual parents anyway, right? But how would you empower a parent to really feel that they have got this, that they can actually work with their kids as they continue to grow and they continue to experience this spiritual reality that they might be experiencing?
Mm. I think I know what you're saying. I think I would say, like, as a spiritual person, and we're all spiritual beings, that God is on our side. He's there. He's keeping us safe. He's helping us grow. He's leading us towards the truth. And even negative experiences, there's always lessons to learn. Um, and so and through mistakes, we're going to make mistakes. Those are also opportunities to look at and to learn from, to forgive, and to grow. And the Bible says that, like, God will draw all things to Himself. And so I think that in love there is no fear, and so God loves us unconditionally. And so if we realize that and act in that, and be clear vessels of love, of letting God's light shine through us, that's going to be powerful. And so, whatever comes our way, with God, we can do all things.
Mm.
So I interpret that as, for a parent who maybe doesn't have that lens of spirituality, is to just be,
Mm-hmm.
allow yourself to be connected in your own faith, whatever that is to you, and to your own faith of whatever is divine, whatever is, bigger than us and guiding us or created us, to really, really lean into it, lean into your faith, lean into the higher power. And I would go out on a limb and say, I was talking earlier, it's really helpful if parents don't act like they have all the answers, like their way is the only way of being. That's actually really empowering, because what a burden to have to feel like you know everything,
Mm.
and you have the answer for everything. But how empowering to know, is like, it's okay, I don't have to have all the answers. God or my higher power is guiding me. I'm leaning into that faith, that trust, that support. I don't have to have it all figured out. I just have to have presence for my child, and curiosity, and being willing to be with them.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's the most empowering part.
Yes, I am going to piggyback on that. I love the idea of the child being raised by the village. I
Mm-hmm.
really love that. I think that there is something to be said about parents who welcome the village and welcome the elders. We're elders for a reason, right? And there is this capacity for bringing in the support that we need as parents. One of my nieces has 3 kids. Two of them are twins. They are going to be 3 years old this next October. And I can tell you that I love the way that my niece allows the family to come in. One of them is 13, the other ones are going to be 3. And I admire it because each one of us comes with what we have to give. Each one of us, it presents themselves to the kids, I should have said, in the way that we that is authentic to who we are. And the kids know it, all of them, they know it. So they are supported from the day they are born. They are supported by the whole network of family members. I love that. I really do, because what I have to give is very different from my one of my sisters. The other sister is the grandmother. I am more pragmatic. I come in and we have fun, and I am not there to discipline in any way, shape, or form. I'm there for another reason. Then my other sister is the one who has all the tears. She cries for everything, but she's also the more her love language is gift giving. So every time you see her, she has something for the kids that they don't even need, but she has it. And that's something that we all know, that that's her contribution, her love, and the way she loves the kids. She's fantastic at that. And then everybody else who comes in, my daughter, my son, whatnot, they all come in such a way that the kids know exactly what they are going to get from each one of the family members. I think that's the most powerful thing that I have seen in terms of someone allowing the village to be so much a part of the kids' lives. And sometimes I have to ask, is this okay with you? Because she doesn't seem to care. And she says, do whatever. I love that, do whatever. But at the same time, what these kids are getting is such a solid foundation that everywhere they look, there is someone who really, truly cares for them and about their future. For me, that's the one thing that I would say to parents is allow the village to come in. And I know that I gave a long example for this, but allow the village to come in and allow the village to give you whatever they are able to authentically give you as a gift to your child, in the way that they are present to your child's needs.
So beautiful.
Yeah. I'm going to say one thing. Another thing, if you don't have a family near you, create one. Create one with the people who are close to you.
Yeah, that's all really great. I really loved our conversation today. I think we added some valuable things from our panel talk.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you both for really allowing this moment to happen again. I was so excited when we first talked, and when I watched the video, I was like, oh, this is something that is very cool and that is worth exploring a little deeper. Thank you both.
Yeah. Thank y'all for your wisdom and contribution and friendship as well.
Always.
Thank you.
Always.
Awesome.
Right.
Well, is there any last words?
More words? No, just
right.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I really enjoyed it. And yeah. And you.